It's never boring, people. It's never boring around here. Seahawks win, get a much-needed victory that is going to really make things a lot easier on us in the second half of the season. 31-25 over the Buffalo Bills. Lot to talk about. Lots to talk about with this team. So let's start with the positives, because there are definitely some very, very good things that we can talk about from this game. Mainly the big three on offense. The big three on offense: Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, and Doug Baldwin. The offense goes as those guys go, and those guys went tonight. Russell Wilson, best game of his season so far, probably. Maybe he was better against the Jets, but for my money, I'll take what he did tonight over any night I've seen him play this season. Accurate. He was making plays down the field. His numbers don't even totally reflect how good he was. He drew 2 big pass interference calls down the field that set up scoring drives. I think one was the Doug Baldwin one that we scored on the next play, and there was I think a Jermaine Kearse one. But yeah, great stuff down the field, which is something we did not have at all last week. A couple guys were saying that Wilson couldn't throw the ball down the field because of his torn pectoral, his pectoral injury, and this week he was certainly better. If that was the problem, if it was just game planning stuff, then you have to question the play calling. But Jimmy Graham hitting him down the seam, they could not cover him. They could not keep tabs on him. And I think he went a perfect 8 for 8 tonight when throwing to Jimmy Graham. 8 attempts, 8 completions, 2 one-handed touchdown grabs. Just throw it up to him, and he's going to find a way to make an amazing catch. That's the Jimmy Graham formula. He doesn't need to be open. He's always kind of open. You give him a chance to make a big play, he's going to make it. Made a whole bunch of big plays tonight. Moved the chains, kept the drives going. Was huge in the red zone. That is how we need to be using that guy, and it sucks that it took a year and a half for us to figure this out, but we're here now. Let's just try to keep it. Let's try to keep the game plan like this the rest of the season, because 8 catches, 103 yards for your most talented wide receiving threat, your most physically dominant receiving threat. I love that. And Doug Baldwin, like I said, when Doug Baldwin is producing, this offense goes, it seems like. There are other players on this team, on this offense, that their production means a lot, obviously, but when Doug Baldwin is getting off, Wilson, his numbers go up through the roof. He's the guy who really can make the difference on this offense between it just being an average offense and a decent one. Those 3 guys, they controlled this game for our offense. And without those guys, we don't have anything going tonight. With those guys, there were times where this offense looked unstoppable. Jermaine Kearse had a couple good catches, and he might have drawn a pass interference call. I can't remember if it was him or Baldwin the second time. Tyler Lockett had a couple of good plays. He's still not totally integrated into this offense, but he had one of those wide receiver carries for 13 yards early in the game. He had a nice catch down in the red zone area. The passing game, it's almost there. And tonight was about as good as we've seen it. Now, as good as Wilson played, there are still 1 or 2 plays. He runs into the pressure. He doesn't get away from the pressure when the opportunity is there. Our last offensive play of the game before the kneel down was terrible. You have to get away from that. He just kind of stood there and let himself get sacked in a situation where he actually could have sprinted away from the pressure and actually bought some time. It seems like Wilson this year, I know his body has betrayed him a little bit, but it seems like his mind isn't totally there either. This year, I feel like he's played not optimally smart football that I'm used to seeing from that guy. He you got to love him after a night like tonight, but there's just those one or two plays over the course of a game where you just think he needs to be on top of that a little more. Okay, those are the positives. It's really those three guys. Everything else, I don't know how we won this game when you really break it down like that. Because running game is a joke. Tonight was the worst. Christian Michael had 5 carries for 1 yard. And I think he had 3 yards after contact. He had a negative yard per carry before contact tonight. Couldn't get out of the backfield. CJ Procise, he got a couple carries late in the game. We were trying something different. He was slightly more successful. I'm not excited about anything he did tonight. Russell Wilson, he's getting his legs back, but we need something going back there, and I don't think it's the running backs. Thomas Rawls is going to be back soon. When he comes back, that's not going to fix anything. In a weird, bizarre twist of, I don't even know what you would call it, this offensive line is actually now better at pass protection than run protection, and they're not good at pass protection. But today, the run blocking was not NFL caliber. I've said that about this team a few times this year. It's starting to get on my nerves how many times I have to say this team does not look NFL caliber in certain areas. Now it's the run blocking. Tonight was disgusting. I mean, the Bills didn't even have Marcel Darius out there. And we couldn't open up one running lane the whole game. The longest carry any running back had tonight was 4 yards by CJ Procise pretty late in that game. We had to give up on the running game later on because it just wasn't working, and we had to get points. We had to move the ball. We can't waste possessions on a running game that isn't going anywhere. We couldn't take the time we needed to really cultivate it because it was so dead. Offensive line, I'll give them a little bit of it. There were portions of this game where the pass protection held up enough. We were able to hit some shots downfield. We were able to get some big plays going. But, I got to tell you, man, George Fant, I'm on board with the guy. I'm on board with George Fant at left tackle, but the penalties, they got to stop. The blocking, I think he's doing okay. Everybody on this offensive line is making plenty of mistakes. He's one of them. I don't think he's making as many mistakes as Bradley Sowell was in terms of fundamental execution of a blocking scheme. He is making more penalties. Got to clean that up, but everybody on this offensive line, they're making mistakes here and there. And to me, he's just one of those guys who occasionally makes mistakes, but on the whole, I can't hate too much on the game that he played tonight. But the run blocking can't go anywhere but up. Sometimes I wonder, how did you go into this season with an offensive line this bad? How could you, I've asked this question before, how can you go into a season with an offensive line this bad when you have a $100 million quarterback? Jesus. So that's the offense. Defense. There are a couple guys you can single out if you really want to. Couple guys on this defense. Cliff Averill. My God. We struggled to get after the quarterback tonight, and don't get me wrong, he had to be out there for a lot of plays tonight to get the pass rush that he did get. But that dude's having a monster season, and we need it we need it badly, especially with Michael Bennett out. Frank Clark, spotty, but productive. He did some stuff in the backfield today. Bobby Wagner, he's been a man possessed for the last 3 weeks now. Nothing's going to be perfect when you're on the field as much as our defense has been on the field, and you're missing the players that we're missing. But, yeah, I can point out a couple of those guys, but on the whole, holy shit. This defense bore no resemblance to the defense that I've seen over the past 5 years, I would even say. 5 years, maybe even 6. I mean, the effort on some of the plays by some of these players was pathetic. And Kelsey McRae, I know you're a backup. I know you're filling in for Cam. Get well soon, Cam, but he was terrible tonight, I thought. He made a couple of plays to try to make up for things, but he was a mess. KJ Wright, Earl Thomas. I love Earl. I love these guys. Don't get me wrong, but missing tackles, letting people run them over for extra yards. Brock Coyle couldn't keep contain on some of those scrambles by Tyrod Taylor. Was letting him get outside the pocket. The defensive tackles, I know it's thin up there right now, but Buffalo had their way in the running game. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was about as bad as I was worried it could be, and we gave up a lot of ground to their offensive line. Their offensive line controlled a good portion of this game. Jerron Reed, Atba Rubin, Tony McDaniel, whoever you want to call out, it was not their best game. And I know Buffalo runs that, offense where they have the 6 offensive linemen, and it's tough. But the fact that Earl Thomas had to have 9 tackles in this game tells you that the front layers of the defense were not handling their business. One guy I'm really getting sick of, that I'm really going to call out here, is Jeremy Lane, a guy who got a huge contract from us this offseason, or at least huge by the standards of a nickel cornerback, and it looks like, I swear to God, if I didn't know any better, I'd say that dude is sitting on the money. I got my contract, I'm good. I would not hate it if he did not play next week, because tonight, Robert Woods was getting whatever the hell he wanted, mostly against Jeremy Lane. Yeah, there was some on McCray. McCray didn't play well. You might be able to find some on Shed. But right now, guys like Deshaun Shed are far outplaying Jeremy Lane. Jeremy Lane's doing nothing for me. Coverage is terrible. Decision-making is terrible. Tackling is bad. So that's one guy. I don't like to call out specific players necessarily, but Jeremy Lane has done nothing but irritate me for most of this season. No big plays and a lot of stuff given up. But tonight, a lot of players on this defense did not tackle well, did not take good angles, did not play discipline, did not get off their blocks. I know it's tough to play this Buffalo offense. They're a unique offense, but 3rd and 21 on the last drive of the game. Are you kidding me? And look, Tyrod played great. Tyrod is a great quarterback. He played brilliant football, but God damn those 3rd downs, man. You got to get off the field on 3rd down. I know you guys are tired. I know you guys are worn out. You got to do something out there a little more than that. And can we go 1 week without having a major special team screw up? Blocked field goals, missed field goals, blocked punts now, bad punts, bad kickoff coverage. If it's not one thing, it's another. Those things. Right now, this team doesn't have the margin for error to be dealing with this. I mean, we saw it tonight. They block a punt, get an easy touchdown out of it. We're almost losing the game on the last play with 15 seconds to go. I mean, came down to the last play, or second to last play, 15 seconds left, and we would have been bemoaning that blocked punt if things didn't work out in the 4th. I'll say that. So, like most of the games that the Seahawks have played so far this year, you come away from it frustrated, but I'll say this much. 5-2-1, second best in the conference. Atlanta's the only team that's right there with us, and we obviously have the tiebreaker. Second half of the schedule, we are probably going to be very happy that we won this game at the end of the season, because this could be the difference between 11 wins and 12 wins very easily. Next week is tough. I'm not going to lie. Next week, I don't see much. After that, things could go really well for us, and we're going to be really happy that we found a way to win this one. So, Russell Wilson, Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, Bobby Wagner, Cliff Averill, you guys found a way to do just enough to win, but holy hell, the other players on this team, it's mixed at best. Alright, I'll see you guys I'll make a preview video for this Patriots game, but it's not going to be pretty. See you guys later.